Yeah.
That's something that you will need to be careful about. But give it, I would say, we'll understand where you stand currently, and accordingly then we can decide to go for a date also. We can decide that on Monday, and I can also give you a feedback on the test of what's going wrong and where we are making mistakes. Okay, so we are
Yes.
done
Yeah.
with basic comprehension questions in our reading type. Now see, in reading, most of these question types we need to go in depth because the some of them are a bit difficult. Okay, writing and speaking, the questions we don't need to go in depth and practice them a lot. Of course, speaking we will practice. Writing we keep practicing on daily basis most of the times, but क्लास में इन प्रैक्टिस हम इतना नहीं करते हैं, वो सारे क्वेश्चंस इन डेप्थ इतना नहीं जाते जितना रीडिंग में जाते हैं, बिकॉज मेनी स्टूडेंट्स फेस इशू विथ रीडिंग. Okay, sometimes if they get stuck, they get stuck. The way I told you, some of the question types that we have already looked at, they just get stuck, and till the end they are not able to tackle it. So that is the reason we practice these questions more. Listening is again a bit easier because most of the times we are used to listening to series, movies, correct? So we can tackle it still, and the questions are also a bit easier, I would say, according to the listening passages. But in reading, as the options are confusing, that's where you get stuck, I would say. That's why we practice a bit extra over here. Now next, as I told you, we finished basic comprehension questions. Here we have inference questions. Now what do we mean by inference questions? Inference questions are nothing but where they ask you to infer something. Okay, something. Here you basically need to have the pragmatic understanding of thing. What do we mean by pragmatic understanding of thing? Now when I tell you कि close the window, okay, or say I am your sister, you are, I have my exam, okay, and you are playing music on TV very loudly. I just come out of my room and I say, please lower the volume. Now what was the actual meaning that I said? What was the explicit meaning that I said over here? कि lower the volume. Okay, but वो मैंने
Yeah.
क्यों बोला, उसका implicit meaning क्या है?
Okay. Because I'm preparing for the exam. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I am preparing for exam, you are playing the music on loud. So
Right.
you understood that, okay, I have my exams, that is the reason I asked you to lower the volume, correct? So that is
Yes.
the inference that you got from what I said. Did I say that कि मेरा एग्जाम है करके? नहीं, वो तुम्हें ऑलरेडी
No.
पता था, अभी मैंने नहीं बोला वो,
Right.
correct? So that is the implicit meaning that you need to take out, that is the pragmatic meaning that you need to take out. Okay, so same way in this, in these passages, author will not mention directly that he is trying to tell you. Okay, you have to understand from the other words that he has said over here, he or she basically. Okay, so that is why this question type becomes a bit difficult. ठीक है, तो थोड़ा सा अच्छे से समझना अगेन इम्पॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. सो दे विल आस्क यू क्वेश्चन, दे विल आस्क यू टू आइडेंटिफाई इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज implicit in the passage and not explicitly presented. Okay, and you need to understand it from the text. Okay, they will write economically, one way of like if they are writing economically, they will say one way of achieving economy of expression is to leave some information to be understood by the reader without spelling it out. Okay, they often also point out obvious implications of their explicit comments, trusting that the reader will understand these implications without being told. Okay, and of course that's what you'll come across. Now most of the times here your reading set will have at least one, sometimes you might get two also. Now understand, again, if you understand the knack of it, it gets easier. ठीक है. नाउ अनदर एग्जाम्पल आई गिव यू. इन्फरेंस का मीनिंग क्या होता है? नाउ इफ यू लुक outside the window, okay, and you see that it is cloudy and you are planning to go out today, what will you do?
Maybe I will take my umbrella along with me.
Exactly, that is the inference that you got, correct? किसी ने
Okay.
आपको
Yeah.
बोला क्या कि कैरी करो अम्ब्रेला करके? नहीं,
No. No.
but that is the meaning that you got. Okay, another way of understanding this question would be, most of the times we will be using modifiers over here. Modifiers मतलब
Okay.
क्या, कि ये जो हमारे वर्ड्स होते हैं ना, ऑलमोस्ट, ऑलवेज, मोस्ट ऑफ, ओके, मेजॉरिटी, ऑल दीज वर्ड्स विल बी यूज्ड. Okay, and these words will help you to remember or understand how to answer this question. Now, if I say the employee was almost always punctual, what will you imply from this?
Um, he's always on time, kind of.
हाँ, तो इसका अगर नेगेटिव निकालना रहा तो मैं तो कैसे निकालोगे? Like opposite of this. She is sometimes late.
Yeah, sometimes like true. Yeah,
Okay. This also,
because it was not said. Yeah,
I did
he's
not say
always
always. I said almost
right,
always. That
right.
means
Almost
95% of
correct.
time. Okay. I did not
Right.
say
Yeah.
100% of time. So that means 5% of time she is late. Okay. One more. The person owned most of the land in the village. The person owned most of the land in the village. Now, what will you imply from this?
Yeah, some of the land he doesn't own, kind of.
Exactly, you got it now. Okay, that is how you understand the inference questions. समझे? ये समझ गया ना? Then it becomes easier. Okay, कि what is inference and how to get that inference from the text. So sometimes this way also helps, but of course it will depend on the question which is being asked. There are two ways of looking at it. Sometimes you'll just understand it from the rain wala example. Sometimes you'll understand from the modifiers which have been mentioned over there. Okay, your question will look like this. Paragraph 1 suggests which of the following about X. Okay, the author of the passage implies that. Now this implies that वाला हमेशा मतलब most of the times यही आता है, या फिर third वाला which of the following can be inferred from paragraph 1 about X, and they will ask you the question. Okay, now as I said, make sure the option that you select does not contradict the information over here, which is of the passage, main passage. And again, do not choose an answer over here just because it seems important or it seems true. It was mentioned somewhere in the passage. उसकी वजह से select मत करो. Answer it according to the question. Okay, and your correct answer must be inferable from the language in the passage. मतलब passage में से समझ में आना चाहिए. ठीक है, मतलब you should, and another thing is you should be able to point out the answer in the passage where it was mentioned कि कहाँ से आपने वो answer derive किया. Okay, that's something that you have to remember. Now let's try one example quickly.
I'm just remember, I'm changing it.
Sure,
It's just
sure.
so yeah. Let's start with the question.
No problem. Just give me 1 minute also, okay, please.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello? Yeah. Were you able to answer it? Am I audible? Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Did you get the answer?
Um. Before I should. They contain sulfuric. Okay. Actually, they have mentioned, but then the option B, I was like confused. They
Mm-hmm.
produce a pleasant odor as they burn, but then I felt okay. Pleasant is like in that last paragraph. If we see, that would not produce usual smoke
How?
and
Why
rancid
did you?
odor.
Why
So,
did you reach last paragraph? What is the question? Read the question properly once.
okay, which of the following can be inferred from paragraph one about candles before the 19th century?
Hmm. Now read from
Okay,
the
paragraph
first
one.
sentence
First line.
to here. Okay. You can see my arrow, right? From first sentence till sulfuric
No, I
acid.
can't see yours. Okay, okay,
Okay.
I got it.
Hmm. Now, if you read properly, you can see 19th century is mentioned in the first line. Okay, from the second
Hmm.
line itself, they reach the early to mid 19th century. मतलब हमें यहाँ पर जाना ही नहीं है. Our answer is in first sentence itself.
Yeah,
Okay, because the question is before the 19th century.
yeah.
So,
They were not avail. Uh,
hmm, so what will be the
they
answer?
were not available to all. Yeah,
Yes, because it says made lighting available to all.
available to all. Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
understood.
yeah, yeah.
That's how you have to infer it, and that's how you have to. Sometimes you will have to read the passage properly with the points which are mentioned in the question, as I said. ठीक है, यहाँ पर हमें समझ
Yeah.
में आ रहा है कि अर्ली टू मिड 19th सेंचुरी, मतलब यहाँ पर इसके आगे हमारा आंसर है ही नहीं, इसके पहले
नहीं,
ही हमारा
true.
आंसर है. That's what you need
Right,
to pay
right, yeah.
attention to. Okay, one more.
It's option A. Decreased physical activity results in thinner weaker bones.
Option A. That's correct. Okay, very good. You
Yeah.
understood how to infer it now. Yeah, let's try one more quickly. Did you get the answer?
Just a moment.
Sure, sure.
C. The bodily functions are affected determined by where the stroke occurs.
C.
Yeah.
That's the correct option. Very good. Okay, last one.
Option A.
Option A.
Yeah,
That's correct. Okay, don't second guess
I
yourself.
was.
Sometimes we
Yeah,
just
I
get
was.
sometimes we just get confused with our own options, okay? So don't do
Correct.
that. Just go with your gut feeling also. It
I
happens
was confused
sometimes.
between A and B, and then
Okay,
I was like, okay, they are saying inferred, so
hmm,
maybe that option B it is straightforward. So in
exactly.
second para we can say that it is straightforward. Then I was like, okay, no, there must be option A.
Correct. Very good. You got it. But so that's what you need to keep in mind also, and go with your gut feeling also. Sometimes we choose the right answer and then we select the wrong option. Okay, that happened with me in the current exams that I gave also. Okay, it
Okay.
happens. We go with our gut feeling. We have the right answer, but when we have to mark the answer, we just go ahead and mark the answer second option, thinking nahi nahi पहला वाला गलत होगा. That happened with me also. I was going through my question paper that day. We got the provisional answer key, right? So the answer that I had marked previously and was correct, and then I went ahead and marked another answer, and that was incorrect. So that happens with most of us, I would say. Of course, मेरा थोड़ा GK वाला था, तो GK में I was doubtful. It was not for English, so that's the reason. Okay, English के सब बराबर किए थे मैंने, thankfully.
Yeah.
My GK is not so good, yep. That's what we have to keep in mind. And that happens in all the MCQ tests. Because again, see, now you're still giving it at your own pace. In the actual test, you are going to have a timer on your head also over there. Correct? So
Right,
वो
right.
और pressure में आ जाते हैं हम when we see that timer in front of us. Okay? So that's why you just need to go with your gut feeling. Don't choose any other option. Yeah? Just keep that in mind.
Timer on head, like there is more chance that we might choose. I mean,
Incorrect
incorrect
option.
answer sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Okay, next is our rhetorical purpose question. Rhetorical purpose question is something similar to what we did just now. Okay, again, we have to make inferences, we have to form generalizations and draw conclusions based on what is implied in the passage. Okay, here we have to recognize and create accurate paraphrasing of the information from the text. Okay, rhetoric is nothing but the art of speaking or writing effectively. Now we saw that in factual information question we have to mark the answer which is something presented by the author directly. Okay, but in rhetoric purpose question we will be asked something that the author has presented in the passage in a form of say a piece of information in a say particular place or a particular manner. Okay, these questions will actually show your language skills, these inference questions. Okay, that's why you have to be a bit careful with them, because again they are not mentioned directly in the passage. Factual basic comprehension वाले हमारे questions है वो easy है, वो कोई भी कर सकता है. Inference question, you need good language skills, then only you are able to do it. Okay, now sometimes you'll be asked to identify how one paragraph is relating to another paragraph. For example, the second paragraph may give examples to support a statement in the first paragraph which has been given. Now, the answer choices which you will have over here will be in general terms. A theory is explained and then illustrated, say. Okay, and sometimes you might have the category of adaptation to say deserts by mammals, and then he gives an example. These kind of questions will be there. Okay, another example could be, why does the author mention the ability to grasp a pencil? Say the correct answer would be, the correct option would be, it is an example of a motor skill developed by children at 10 to 12 months of age. Okay, so such kind of questions would be asked to you. Now the questions would be something like this: the author discusses say dash 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 in paragraph 2 in order to. So here you have to give this reasons, state the reasons, so you have to select the reasons properly. Why does the author mention, why does the author compare two things? These kind of questions will be there. Now here main thing that becomes important for us is to options will contain the words like to illustrate, to explain, to contrast, to refute, to criticize. ये सारे words हमारे options contain करेंगे. Okay, और करेंगे ही. That's how your answer will start. So you should know what to illustrate means, you should know what to explain means, to contrast means, to refute means, to note means, to criticize means. अगर इसकी मीनिंग ही नहीं हमें पता है, बाकी सारे जो वर्ड्स की मीनिंग पता है, तो हमें गलत ऑप्शन सिलेक्ट कर जाएंगे वहाँ पर। टू कॉन्ट्रास्ट अगर नहीं पता है, टू रिफ्यूट का मीनिंग नहीं पता है, कॉन्ट्रास्ट फिर भी हम समझ जाएंगे कि अपोजिशन में, बट टू रिफ्यूट का अगर मीनिंग नहीं पता है, आई माइट जस्ट सिलेक्ट एन इनकरेक्ट ऑप्शन. Okay, so you need to know the meaning of these words. To refute is something again to oppose, you could say, but you can google the
Okay.
meaning later. Okay, so
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
what we should know, नहीं तो हम गलत ऑप्शन यहाँ पर सिलेक्ट कर देंगे. ऐसे वर्ड्स आते हैं हमारे इन ऑप्शंस में. या and again understand, they will not usually ask you about the overall organization of the passage. They will focus on some kind of logical links between some sentences and some paragraphs. पूरे पैराग्राफ के, सॉरी, पूरे पैसेज के बारे में ये नहीं पूछेगा. ओके, सम सेंटेंसेस एंड सम पैराग्राफ्स के बीच का ऑर्गेनाइजेशन पूछेगा ये क्वेश्चन. Okay, that's where we'll need to pay attention. We won't need to reread the whole passage again. That's something that we are trying to highlight over here. Let's watch a small video over here again. It's for both, it's for an inference question as well as rhetorical purpose question. Okay, pay attention.
Hi, I'm Michael from ETS. Today on Inside the TOEFL Test, we're going inside the TOEFL IBT reading section, specifically the inference and rhetorical purpose questions. Inference questions ask you to identify information or comprehend an idea that is not explicitly stated in the reading passage. You can recognize inference questions because they usually include the words infer, imply, or suggest, like in these examples. Rhetorical purpose questions are similar because they also ask for information not explicitly stated. These will ask why the author has presented a piece of information. One way to approach these types of questions, if you can't identify the correct answer immediately, is to eliminate wrong answers. You will see more on this as we go through the example. Now, let's do a sample inference question. Here's a paragraph from a reading passage about meteorite impacts. Next, let's look at the question. You see that it uses the word inferred, so that clearly tells you that it's an inference question. Can you identify the correct answer?
Okay, give it a read quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm done.
Done? Okay, did you understand how they got the
Yeah.
answer?
Right, right. Yeah.
It's choice C, because it's supported by this sentence, which indicates that scientists knew in 1980 that there had been an impact, and this one, where it says the site had been located in the Yucatan. Let's look at why the other choices can be eliminated. Choice A is not correct because there isn't anything written or implied in the passage about geologists keeping the impact site secret. Choice B is also not correct. Saying that it was a well-known fact contradicts the passage where it talks about the discovery of the crater in the Yucatan. Choice D also can't be correct because the paragraph doesn't mention climate as a factor in the discovery of the impact site. Now let's look at an example of a rhetorical purpose question. It asks about information from a different paragraph in the same reading passage about meteorites and dinosaurs. It's like an inference question, but it asks why the author includes a particular piece of information. When reading each answer choice, the most important part to focus on is the to clause at the beginning of each one. Then pick the answer that best describes what the author is trying to do. In this case, the correct answer is C. One way to build your reading skills is by practicing skimming, which is reading quickly to identify major points. One way to skim is to read the introductory paragraph, then the first sentence of each of the middle paragraphs, and then read the concluding paragraph. When you're practicing, try reading a passage twice. The first time skimming to get the main ideas, then read it again more carefully to see if you really did get those main ideas. Another tip that will help with rhetorical purpose questions is to make sure you know the definition of these words, because they are often used to describe kinds of rhetorical purposes. There are lots of ways to improve your English skills. Whatever you do, keep practicing. And
Okay, now skimming and scanning is something that we are going to learn when we start, once we start our lessons. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Yeah.
good luck.
Now let's practice one or two questions over here, and then we will. Can you leave this, or do you want me to pick up it? Okay, I'll keep this so that you're able to
Okay.
read the
Yeah.
question also. You can zoom in from your side. Okay, you have that option in Google Meet.
Yeah. No, I see it clearly. Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Option A.
Option A. That's correct. Okay, understood?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do
Yes.
one
Yeah.
more and then we'll move to the next question type.
Yeah. Option A. No,
Option
no,
A.
no.
Okay.
What's the meaning of ambivalent?
Ambivalent.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, let me.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Having or showing mixture of feelings or opinions about something or somebody. That's the actual meaning of it.
Okay. I'll need help here. I'm getting
Okay.
confused.
Okay, which
Yeah.
options are you getting confused with?
Um, A and B. C and D is like ruled out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where can you find that in the passage? Tell me that.
Okay. To say that the personal stance on this, I was confused because they are at the in the last line they are saying
Mm-hmm.
if a person can't describe the experience, the person is not having the experience. So this is something we see like um,
Mm-hmm.
when they are giving any kind of okay. So see
The
to show that
options.
linguistic relativity is simple hypothesis. Okay.
Okay. Because the author uses the short phrase, the hypothesis argues. To emphasize that this
Right.
hypothesis, also called linguistic relativity, is just a claim and not necessarily proven or agreed upon. Hypothesis is the meaning में hypothesis का है hypothesis is something that you argue but there is no actual proof to it. Okay, you are still
Proof
supposed
to
to
it.
come up with a
Hmm.
proof to it.
Okay.
Okay, then it becomes a theory. Correct. That's what we mean by
Correct.
hypothesis. So that's what is highlighted over here.
Okay. Yeah. Understand. Yeah.
It was a bit difficult, so it's fine, I believe. I'll send you these questions for practice. We have some practice
Okay.
questions in our uh, TOEFL guide also. Okay, we will quickly discuss
Okay.
the
Yeah.
remaining two question types because they are little easier once you have understood them again, of course. Next is insert
Yeah.
text question. Insert text question is nothing but you will be given a passage. Okay, sorry, a paragraph in particular over here. Your screen will look something like this on the test day. Okay, you'll be given a paragraph from the passage itself. Okay, and you will be given two sentences like this. On the right you can see this made it easy for the artist to paint and display them for the rest of the cave dwellers. These kind of sentences would be given to you. Now this sentence as of now does not exist in the passage. Okay, we have to insert this in the whole passage but particularly in this paragraph. Okay,
Okay.
but when we insert this sentence in the paragraph, we have to make sure that it does not change the meaning of the whole passage, it does not change the meaning of the paragraph. uh, if we have some kind of wordings which have been including the words like this, therefore, however, to add on, we understand from that where the position of these sentences could be. Okay, the pronouns over here also help us sometimes to understand where this will be placed. Now usually your question, this question will always come at question number 9. Your question number 9 will always be insert text question. Okay, and you have only one question. Now as I said, you will have to make sure you will have four squares on your screen like this. You have to just click on the square and select the place where the sentence could be inserted. Now you can select and deselect and reselect. Okay, उसका कोई issue नहीं है, वो कर सकते हो कितने बार चाहिए उतने बार. Now the easiest way to solve this is that of course you will check what are the wordings being used and where it could best be placed. Okay, for example in this particular, this made it easy for the artist to paint and display. तो ये समझ में आ रहा है कि this will not come somewhere at the start of the sentence, this will be some, sorry, start of the paragraph, this will be somewhere in between, because it starts with this made it easy, so we know that something has been mentioned previously and we are adding on to it. Okay, if words are like therefore, henceforth, हाउएवर, ये सारे वर्ड जो हमारे आते हैं वो एंड में, टू एड अप, टू सम अप, ये सारे वर्ड जो आते हैं वो हमारे एंड में आते हैं. करेक्ट, सो वी अंडरस्टैंड इट विल बी लास्ट सेंटेंस ऑफ द पैराग्राफ. Or if it's giving some kind of definition, the way your first sentence is in the paragraph over here, we understand that okay, it will come at the start of the sentence. Okay, so that's what helps us to identify where it could best be fitted. Okay, now another thing that you need to understand is, after inserting the text you will read the sentence. Okay, you will read the previous sentence and you will read the next sentence जहाँ पर हमने text insert किया है. Okay, and you will see if it still makes sense, if it still gives you the meaning that you want. Okay, if it does not change the meaning of the whole passage and the whole paragraph as such. ठीक है, that's what you will make sure. So that's why I said कि once you select ना, यहाँ पर स्क्रीन पे ऐसा दिखता है, तो यहाँ पर अपने स्क्वायर पे क्लिक किया ना, ये टेक्स्ट ऑटोमेटिकली वहाँ पर इंसर्ट हो जाता है. ठीक है, एंड वो वहाँ पर इंसर्ट होने के बाद में यू कैन जस्ट रीड द फर्स्ट लाइन, दिस लाइन एंड द नेक्स्ट लाइन आफ्टर दैट. लगता है कि नहीं वहाँ पर मीनिंग करेक्ट नहीं आ रहा है, go to the next line, go to the next square, read over there, go to the third square, read over there. But make sure थोड़ा elimination का method भी यहाँ पर use करने के लिए, if you get confused sometimes, then use the elimination method also, कि यहाँ पर नहीं जाएगा, यहाँ पर नहीं जाएगा, okay यहाँ पर best fit हो रहा है. That's what you will do. Okay, and again this is what your screen will also look like on the test day. Okay, you will have the back and next option on the right, you will have review option where you can mark your answers for review. Okay, your paragraph will come on the left and your questions will be on the right. Okay, and then you will have the question number also on the top, and you will have the timer also, you can hide the timer also, and you can do back and fill in the questions, and usually your MCQ questions will again come on the right. You just need to select the ABCD option over there. Okay, there will be ovals, you will select the ovals. Now only pay attention कि कहाँ पर select 2 बोला गया है, तो अगर select 2 बोला गया है तो you have to select 2. If you just select 1 over there, you will not get points for that, especially in your listening. Okay, in listening you get sometimes select 2, select 3 also sometimes. So if you select only one option over there, वो option correct भी रहा तो भी marks नहीं मिलेंगे उसके. ठीक है, that's why. But next question type, which is question number 10 in this reading, उसके हमें marks मिलते हैं. I'll explain it to you, don't worry. ठीक है, अभी के लिए ये समझ में आ गया how you have to
Yeah.
do this. Okay, as I said, your words like on the other hand, for example, on the contrary, as a result, furthermore, therefore, in other words, similarly, in contrast, finally, these words are very very important for us. Okay, on the other hand, ये हमें समझ में आता है कि okay, कुछ तो contrast हो रहा है. Further और furthermore मतलब कुछ तो add on हो रहा है. Therefore, as a result, finally, ये सारे conclusion वाले words हैं हमारे. Okay, similarly, that means we are again comparing something. In contrast, we are comparing something. So that's where we pay attention to these words, and these words are important for us in writing and speaking. These are called transition words. When you use these kind of transition words, your score improves in speaking and writing. Okay, that's what we need to make sure. But वो हम transition words थोड़े और देखेंगे भी हम जब lesson start करेंगे, so don't worry. Understood?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's try this one. Give it a read and tell me where we can best fit the sentence.
Okay. I feel that it best fits at the first place, first
Mm-hmm.
square.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Okay, choice A. You can say it as an option A over here. That's the
Yeah.
correct place to fit it. Okay, very good. Um, let's do one more.
Okay.
This is the sentence that you have to fit. Okay,
In conclusion, right? In
correct.
conclusion, commonality is known as okay.
Yes.
Last, at last,
Okay.
B. Yeah.
Okay, that's the correct option because, of course, your
Okay.
uh, sentence which has to be included is saying in conclusion, correct? So in conclusion, end में ही आएगा. Okay, so don't worry, that's the correct option over there. Now, the last question type that we have is the prose summary question. Now, over here, you need to understand the organization and the purpose of the whole passage. Okay, again, this question will always come at question number 10. Okay, you have to understand the passage, you have to understand its outline, you have to understand its summary, you have to understand how the major points have been organized, and you have to understand the important details over here which have been mentioned in the passage. So you give it a first read. While doing the questions, you give it a second read. So by the time you come to this question, you have already read the passage two times. Okay, so you should know these all these things. Now you should be able to also distinguish between the major points and the minor points of information, कि क्या important है और क्या important नहीं है passage में. That is also something very very important. Now understand this: the minor events or the minor facts which have been mentioned in the passage will not summarize your whole passage. Okay, so you should be also able to understand the accurate paraphrasing which has been done over here. Now, uh, basically over here your questions, I'm sure you must have seen it already. यहाँ पर अभी question example मैंने नहीं डाला है because it's a very long question actually. So what happens is कि question दिया जाएगा, okay, which options basically summarize the whole passage over here. Okay, this is what your question will look like. An introductory sentence will be given to you, and based on that you have to try to summarize the whole passage. Okay, so you will get six options over here. तुम्हें लिखना नहीं है. You will get six options over here, and six options में से three correct options होते हैं. Okay, once you select those three correct options and the point which has been mentioned over there, those four lines or those four options should be able to summarize the whole passage that you have read, which is of course 700 words long. Okay, now understand this: some sentences will not be included in the passage sometimes, like जो options रहेंगे ना उसका कुछ mention ही नहीं रहेगा passage में, या फिर most of the times जो options incorrect है they will be talking about very minor details of that passage, okay, which are not important or which is not important to summarize the whole passage. Say the passage is talking about glaciers, say the passage is talking about ice, how it is formed and everything, or snow and everything, correct? And then somewhere they mentioned that okay, one person got stuck in one particular glacier and he was revived after say 14 days, 15 days, but somehow he survived. Okay, एंड वो ऑप्शन में वहाँ पर आ जाता है दिस वन पर्टिकुलर एग्जाम्पल दैट से दिस person X was able to survive in that glacier on that glacier for say 14 days. Will that be important for our passage summarization? No, not really. The passage is mainly talking about how glaciers are formed and where they can be found, and what are the main places, how big the glaciers are. So all these important facts come into the picture. वो एक पर्टिकुलर छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल जो दिया है वो इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. हाँ, बट इफ यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वन पर्टिकुलर पर्सन एंड उसके बारे में कोई छोटी इन्फॉर्मेशन दी है तो वहाँ पर वो इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं होती. दैट पर्सनस वट एवर हैपन इन दैट पर्सनस लाइफ इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट देन. Okay, so we need to understand what kind of a passage it is again. Usually you do not get passages which are talking about people, but you could get paragraphs or passages which are talking about tribes of people, say. Okay, native some native people from some particular region. So that's where you will need to make sure that you pay attention to major events in the passage. Don't pay attention to minor events in the passage. And again, understand what the passage is mainly talking about. And ये हमें कैसे हो जाएगा? Of course, heading से हमें समझ में आता है, paragraph passage जब हम पढ़ते हैं तब समझ में आता है. But even the first line which is given over here for our help also helps us to identify the main point what the passage is talking about and what should the main theme be, and all the other options will revolve around that main theme. Okay, now this question type is a bit important because as I said before, here you have to select three answer choices, and if you select all three correctly, you get 2 points straight away. These 2 points can increase your score drastically, your overall score drastically in reading. Okay, understand that. If you select all three correctly, then you get 2 points straight away. Okay, if you select two right options and one incorrect option, then you get 1 point only. Okay, out of two. If you select one correct option and two incorrect, you get 0. ओके, वन करेक्ट, थ्री ऑप्शन सिलेक्ट करने हैं, तीनों करेक्ट चाहिए हमें. अगर एक करेक्ट है, दो इनकरेक्ट है, 0. इफ टू करेक्ट, वन इनकरेक्ट, 1 point. If all three correct, then 2 points. So we have to try for all three correct. That is where we will get 2 points directly, and our score goes on a higher because ये एक passage में एक आएगा, right? So दो passage में दो, then we have 4 points over here. So this question type becomes very very important. These 4 points can make or break your score over here. Okay, but the way I told you, if you understand this knack that you have to focus on the organization of the whole passage, then it becomes easier. Okay, don't go for minor points, go for major points. But again, understand this trick works 99% of time. कभी कभी questions जानबूझ के वो घुमा के पूछ सकते हैं. That's where we'll need to be a bit careful. But usually if you see, that's how the questions will be asked. Okay, now for the
Okay.
practice
Yeah.
of this question, you will need to open your TOEFL guide and go to
Hi.
question number, one second,
Yeah.
you will need to go to the type of question number 10 over here. There one passage has
Okay.
been given and the question also has been given. It's a little longer, वो PPT में नहीं डाल सकते, इसके लिए मैंने यहाँ पर नहीं डाला है. Just open your TOEFL guide and do that. I'll give you some time for it right now because you need to read the passage fresh over here. That's why I'll give you some time. Okay, but in the actual test, of course, you will have read the passage already, so you should not spend more than 2.5 minutes on this question. Okay,
Okay. Yeah. What's the page number of that?
I am just telling you, just give me 1 second. Page number 67 of PDF.
Okay. बाप रे. Okay.
Okay, बहुत बड़ा question है, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Now
Yeah.
first look at the options and how the question is framed. Okay, so then you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you see the answer choices, you get 6 answer choices over here, and from 6 options you have to select 3. ठीक है, and पहला line वहाँ पर दिया हुआ है. This passage discusses fundamental differences between applied art objects and fine art objects. So this helps us to identify, okay, this is what the passage is mainly talking about.
Right, right.
Okay, so that's why it becomes a bit easier for us. Now read the passage and try to answer it. I'll give you 5 minutes for this question. I will be back in 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me your options that you have selected.
So it's A, C, and F.
That's correct.
Yeah, actually, and then I was thinking about B, option B too,
Uh-huh.
but then it's like it's not. They're asking like most important ideas, but
Correct.
that is not something most important. It's like just a sentence kind of. Okay,
Exactly. It's
yeah,
just one example, right?
essential.
Of
Right,
they
right,
have that they
yeah,
have included about the whole passage. That's the objects
right,
that they are talking about, correct? About applied art and
right,
uh, fine art objects. So it is not
right, right,
it is not something important which we need to summarize the passage, correct? That's the reason. So you understood the knack of it again. Okay, that's great.
right,
Now I'll
right.
send you the mock test. Give it in the evening whenever you have time.
Okay,
And once you have selected, once you have completed, just let me know. Okay,
sure. Yeah,
so that I
yeah.
can check it.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
sure.
Now, any questions, any doubts that you have that we studied today?
No.
No? Okay, great. Make sure you
Maybe while giving mock test, I might have some questions. So yeah,
correct.
I'll know.
That's what is needed, I would say. You should have some questions. Now, don't forget to give the tasks on test ready also. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
That's something very important. Make sure you finish that as well. Yeah? Chalo. I'll see you on Monday then. Make sure you revise everything. Go through the listening chapter also if you get time. Okay? That will be great
Sure.
if you are able to give. Okay then. Chalo. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
No
Thank you. Good day.
problem. Good night.
Happy weekend.
Have a great day ahead. Bye. Happy weekend.